Join me today as we put together some containers and I bring you some exciting updates from here at the Horticulture Geek Garden. Hey guys, welcome back to Horticulture Geek. Thanks so much for joining me today here on the channel. And yes, I have not posted a video in a while. Some of you have been reaching out. Everything is just fine. I just got busy with other things. I say that a lot, but we had a wonderful holiday season here. I hope you and your family had a wonderful holiday season wherever you might be. My family celebrates Christmas and we had a great time here. Lots of friends and family and events and things going on. We had a wonderful new year and here we are in January. And I am trying to get some things done in the garden. And yes, I am putting together some containers today. Even though it's January, I am just now getting my winter containers done for the front door. I held off on those through the holiday season because I like to decorate those up for Christmas here. We put lights in the evergreens that used to be in there, and we do other things with those pots, and so it really was not time for me yet to do my winter, just plain winter containers, and it's time now. Christmas has passed, it's all packed away, New Year's has passed, so I have a bunch of pretty things to put in those containers for winter. And then I also, over the holidays, made some big changes to the front of our home. And for those of you that have been with the channel for a while, you might can already guess what that is because I've been talking about it, mentioning it for a while. I have ripped out the entire landscape in the front of the house. We will walk out there and I'll show you that here in just a second. I did not film it because I was not the only one working on that project. I had family here helping me to do that. And it was one of those things where we were busy, we were trying to get the job done, and I just didn't pull the camera out because I have filmed videos before of removing trees and bushes and things like that, and honestly I hook a chain around it, hook it to a truck, and yank her out of the ground. So once you've seen one of those videos, you have seen it. If for some reason you haven't seen that done yet, you can go back in my channel and look for videos like that. I have them, but I did not film this particular rip out experience for you guys, but the work is done, and now that flower bed is ready to finish cleaning out and prep it for spring planting. So we'll walk around there and show you that here in just a minute. I've already got kind of my plant setup going on. We'll walk around to the front yard. I'll show you what has changed. And for those of you wondering why I ripped my landscape out, that's what I wanted to mention. I had up there, when this home was, I'm assuming, built, the landscaping that was put in at that time was still here. It was old, very old original landscaping, and it consisted of giant holly bushes that required 2, 3, 4 times a year pruning to keep them in check, and then it consisted of very old boxwoods. The boxwoods had gotten boxwood blight, and they were slowly and systematically dying out. Chunks of the bushes were dying out, and as I was removing them, they were way more rotten and decaying than what I even realized. Some of them literally just crumbled as I tried to rip them out of the ground. So it was beyond time for those to go. The hollies were just obnoxious. They were planted right up next to the house on the foundation. Like I said, they required multiple prunings a year to keep them in check, because regular hollies, if you don't know, and there are dwarf varieties of hollies that you can get out there on the market, this was not them. These were hollies that were just old standard hollies planted 40 years ago, or 30 years ago, whatever. And so they wanted to get 25 to 30 feet tall on a one-story home. So I constantly was pruning them. Hollies have thorns on their leaves. That wasps like to build nests in these things. Like, it was just a mess. And so since the boxwoods had to come out anyway, I went ahead and removed all of the hollies but two. I did leave 2 hollies, and I'll show you those and explain why I did that here in just a minute. But that's the reason why that landscape had to come out. It was just time. It was an old, tired, dying landscape. And so now I'm left with a blank slate to plant. So as you all are already kind of envisioning here, a lot of our spring videos will be shopping for and planting and designing the front flower beds here at my home at the Horticulture Geek Gardens. So hopefully you guys will stay tuned for that. Now's a great time to mention, if you are interested in that and you haven't subscribed and hit the like button yet, do that. So as I post videos, you'll see them and can come and watch them and join me do that. Because of the nature, most of you who are with me for a while know, because of the nature of my life and my job and my family, this is not my full-time profession doing these videos, so I don't have a very regular posting schedule. In the peak season, I try my best to post once a week. In the winter season, that gets a little lax, but I'll do my best. So hopefully you guys will join along and follow my journey if you're interested in gardening content. So with all that said, let me flip the camera around. We'll go look at what all is gone. We'll look at the containers as they set right now, and then we will haul them back to my planting area here in the backyard so that we can actually plant them up and you can see the detail of that. I do live on a busy street, so I'll apologize right now for the noise. Just bear with me and we'll walk through and look at everything. Here we go. Okay, so here is the front view of my home, and all the bushes have been ripped out of these flower beds. Now, I did mention I left 2 hollies. There's one here on this corner, and there's that one there on that corner. Now, here's the reason that I left these hollies, and some of you can probably already see, is that these hollies are positioned on the side of the home, not the front, and they do provide screening and privacy for the side yards. They hide infrastructure from the street. This is where my sprinkler system manifold is, and then my AC unit, and there's some little power boxes there. And on the other side of the house is my gas meter and those things. Again, guys, sorry for the traffic noise. So these holly bushes I left just to provide that privacy still, and 2 bushes that require lots of pruning is way better than 15 bushes that required lots of pruning. So we have cleaned out the bulk of the problems. Now, I am going to bring a chainsaw out here later, and I'm going to cut these hollies down to the ground. That is called coppice pruning, or a regenerative prune, because these hollies, because they were wedged in with so many other bushes just a few weeks ago, you can see they're a little misshapen, they're a little rough on the eye. So we are going to completely start over with these in the spring. We will have a short time there of the screen being gone, but I think overall, for the health, well-being of the plant and for the aesthetic shape of the plant, that will be the best course of action to do that regenerative or coppice pruning. And again, when I do that, I will pop the camera out and we'll walk through that together. It's obviously very simple. It is what it is. You literally just cut it down and let it grow again. You cannot do that with every plant, but with a plant like a holly, you can, just because of the vigorous nature of their growth. Now, crepe myrtles. I left my crepe myrtles on the corner. Obviously, I love my crepe myrtles. It has taken me years to get them to look this good. When I bought this home, the previous owners had crepe murdered them, and they were chopped off right there. You can kind of see the bulging in the tree there. They had been chopped off there. And so I have let them grow, and now I finally have beautiful multi-trunk crepe myrtles at their full height, flanking the corners of the home. I think it's beautiful when they bloom. It's especially pretty. And then here are my containers. So you can see these are the containers I've had for a while. Some of you with a keen eye may notice that the evergreens are different. I did switch out my evergreens. Again, I didn't film that, but I had 2 normal like arbovitas in here, and they had been in here for about 2.5 years, and they were insanely root bound, and their growth had started to suffer as well. So we've pulled those out. I've planted them in the backyard. I'll show you that. And I picked up 2 tater tot arborvitas. These are dwarf, small, rounded arborvitas. They will put on some weight. I actually have some of these in the backyard right now that I've had for a couple years that I can show you as a reference. But these are just really fun evergreens. And their growth habit will be good to stay in these larger containers for quite a while. The 2 smaller containers on each end are what we're going to plant up today. So this is it. This is the work that's been done. You can see I've got some stuff growing around the base of the crepe myrtles. And also scattered around this bed, there are some daylilies. There are some surprise lilies buried in there. There are daffodils still buried in there. I traditionally plant tulips through here. I did not put a fresh crop of tulips in this bed this year because I knew all this work was going to be taking place, and I didn't want to spend the money on the tulips to then potentially wreck them with all this work. But there could be some tulips pop up in the spring that just harbored over from this past season. So here is what our project is going to be this spring. As you can see, let me get up close here. I'm going to have to kind of come in. I've still got some spots to smooth out and clean over. I've got some roots still. They're going to have to be pruned out. Some small little things are going to have to be dug out. And then just literally get in here and give these beds a good clean. At some point in this home's history, somebody put landscape fabric down. So I'm still picking that out. I picked landscape fabric out, I felt like, for over an hour when I pulled the bushes out, and there's still some hidden in there that I have to get out. So this is going to be a work in progress. But once I get it all kind of smoothed out and cleaned up, I'll come in and do a fresh layer of mulch just so it looks nicer than it does right now. And then in the spring, we'll get to planting. So this was a tremendous amount of work. And I had put it off because I knew it was going to be a big job. But it's something that had to happen. So I want to encourage you guys, if you're in a similar situation, you've got a home with an older, mature landscaping, that landscaping is starting to fail. There's no time better than today to get going, and that's easier said than done. Trust me, I know. But like I said, once I started ripping out these boxwoods and things, they were way worse than I thought. Because a plant like a boxwood will look better than it is, which is why you can dry boxwoods. People use them in wreaths and things. Those leaves will just naturally kind of maintain a semi-good looking shape, but the actual health of the plant could be dramatically different, and that was my case. So even though mine were looking bad, they were really bad once I started ripping them out. So if you are in this situation, here's your sign to go ahead and start working on it. And now that it's done, I actually feel a huge sense of relief that I know it's done, and now I get to go in the spring and start shopping for fun things. I don't know exactly yet what I'm going to do, but I think I'm going to come back in with, like, obviously some dwarf varieties of evergreens, some hydrangeas, some hibiscus, some fun stuff, and do a mixed landscape up here, very kind of southern-esque in nature. So we'll see how it turns out. All right, now then, let me put the camera down for a second. I'm gonna grab our pots here and get those back to the back where we can get off this busy street and actually work on getting those planted up. So we'll be right back to plant those up. Here we go. Okay, so here we are. I've got the 2 smaller containers from each side up on the back of my truck. I like to work here, it's a good height. I've got some soil. I have already pre-mixed in some biotone starter fertilizer and some generic fertilizer into this potting soil. Now, you typically would not be putting regular fertilizers into soils for winter containers. Plants just do not grow as vigorously in the wintertime, and fresh growth is easily burned by cold weather. The difference with my situation today is that I've got pansies, ornamental kales, and dianthus going into these containers, as well as tulip bulbs. All of these plants are cold hardy or cold tolerant, so they can still get burned, but they hold up better in the cold. And my pansies, I actually picked up off of a clearance rack at my local garden center. They need a boost. So even though it's not necessary to fertilize with a generic fertilizer in the winter, the starter fertilizer, the biotone starter fertilizer, you can always use, because root development is always beneficial to a plant. It's that active top green flowers and stuff that we don't really want to encourage in the winter. But in this situation, I'm going to go ahead and do it for the reasons that I just said. I've got plants that need a boost, and these containers are on either side of my front door, tucked up under the eaves of the house, so they are in a more sheltered location. And as the sun is out all day, the heat radiates off of the brickwork of the house. So these containers really are kind of in a little microclimate for me. They can still get burned, and they may still have some damage. I'm going to take that risk. If you are new to gardening, if you spend a lot of money on winter plants, don't actively fertilize them. You don't want to take the risk. For me, I'm going to do it. But that's what I've got here. So I have got this soil. This is a good, well-draining container blend. This is not yard soil or gardening soil or anything like that. This is a nice, barky, chunky, well-draining container blend. And I have pre-mixed in my biotone starter fertilizer and my slow release general purpose plant food to that. Now then, let me flip this camera back around and let's look at these plants. Okay, so here are the pansies. They're not looking too bad. Some of them are a little bit scraggly, but we do have some pretty color on some of these as well. Here are the ornamental kales, and these are Nagoya whites. I guess that's how you say that, Nagoya whites. I thought they would be a good pop. And then these dianthus were just too pretty to pass up. So there's the tag on that. It's a Jolt Purple dianthus. Now, dianthus is not as cold hardy as the other things, but they are cold hardy for me. Again, for me here in Central Arkansas, zone 7B, 8A, depending on the old map and the new zone map. I used to be a 7B. I'm now considered 8A. Anyway, I have a very typically moderate winter here. These things will bloom and look good for me most of the winter, as long as we don't have any Arctic blasts come through. And there is actually one on the forecast. So we'll see how these things hold up. But the dianthus is perennial. I can use those out in the landscape in the spring once they come out of these pots. These two things, are just here for the winter. I get way too hot to maintain these two things in the summer here in Central Arkansas. So these are just considered fall, winter, and spring plants for me. They will completely fizzle out in summer. But depending on where you live, these may all be things you can work with year round. So it really just depends on what you have available to you in your garden centers and where you live and what kind of plants you can use. So this is what I have today. Now for these two, and I'm sorry, I do got some tulip bulbs. So I've got a bag of pure whites and I've got a bag of triumphs, which have some pretty color to those. So I am going to be putting the tulip bulbs into these containers and pansies only in these containers. And then we'll take those to the front, and then I'm going to bring the medium-sized containers up, and the medium-sized containers are going to hold the kale, the dianthus, and a few more pansies. So let me get my camera set up and we'll get right to it. Okay. So here we are. I'm going to get going with these. So tulip bulbs first. I've got to get those in, and then I'll top plant pansies on top of them. I've already got a little bit of soil in here, but I am going to put a little bit more in. We want our pansy, Lord, we want our tulips about 6 inches down, okay? And I'm gonna spread this out. So this bag has 7 bulbs and this bag has 8 bulbs. So I'm gonna put 4 of these in each pot and 3 of these in one, 4 of these in the other. Now, when we're planting our tulips or any bulb, bulbs have a top and a bottom. I've went over this multiple times in many videos, but let's just look at this one right here, okay? So a tulip bulb is fairly easy to tell because it has the teardrop shape. The point of the teardrop is our top. This is where our leaves and flower stalk will emerge. The bottom of the teardrop is the butt end or the root end, and this is where all the roots are going to come out. So all of these bulbs will be placed in the soil with the growth tip up and the roots down so that the bulb can anchor itself in and shoot its flower stalk out. Now, if you plant a bulb sideways or upside down, it probably will still grow for you, but you have to consider that it's going to have to exert energy to come out and up or down, around, and up through its own roots to get to the soil, to get its leaves up and to flower. And there's only a certain amount of energy that each bulb holds. So you really don't want to slow down or deplete the energy of your bulb just so it makes it above the soil. So take the time and plant your bulbs right side up. So let me get these laid out in here. Okay. So those are just kind of evenly spaced in there. One of them went rolling. Tuck him back in. So those are just evenly spaced in there around the bottom. And now we just simply fill them up. This one isn't in flower, but this is just an orange one. The one that I just put in is the orange and purple one. So I'm just gonna kind of spread these out. And then this is a purple white with a little yellow on it. So you can see it. It's a real sweet, pretty one. And then this is just a classic yellow. Again, you can tell really good this was a clearance rack one, but it'll flush back out. So let's pop one of those in. Actually, let's pop 2 of those in. All right, so there's a lot of pansies here. We're just gonna work these down into our pot. So there we have it, 2 simple containers that hopefully will give us some good color through the rest of the winter and into the spring, and then bring us some beautiful tulip interest in the spring as well. Let me stop the camera and switch out the containers, and we'll do the next ones. All right, and here we are with our medium-sized containers, and I already have them with soil in them. So I'm gonna take my kale. If there's any bad leaves on them, I can go ahead and groom those off now before we get them into the pot. Okay. So I'm just gonna pre-make a hole for this kale to set in. And I'm gonna do that simply by using the container that it came in as a gauge to how deep it needs to be. Okay, and so now I have a hole, you can kind of see that, and my kale will plop right into that. All right, now I still have to fill up all the way around it, but that's perfect. The next thing is this dianthus. We're gonna go in with that. So let me scoot some soil away over here for that. Oh yeah. Wow, so good. And now that I'm just gonna work soil with my fingers around these 2 root balls to make sure that they are well potted in and therefore well insulated for the winter. And what that has done is it has left me with this pocket in the front for the pansies to go. I like to take my tags and kind of stick them in the back of the pot for my main plants. That way I know where they're at. And then if anybody asks me that comes to the house, oh, what is that plant? If I don't remember off the top of my head, my tag's right there. So, and I just tuck it right in to where you can't even see it. All right, let me twirl this back around facing me, and let's get some pansies in here. And actually, I'm gonna tuck one of these oranges back there. That's good. Okay, now then, let's get these pansies nestled down in here. And then we can fill in with any soil that we need. Oh yeah, that's gonna be good. All right, so it doesn't look like too terribly much now, but it should fill out and be really pretty for the remainder of the winter and just give us some needed interest and color up there, especially since the rest of the landscape is gone. All right, I'm gonna work on getting this one done. All right, there we have it. Let's get them into the front yard. All right, guys, here are the finished products. So now I just need a little time, and hopefully they will just flush out and be beautiful up here for the rest of the winter, because that's all we have to look at until the landscaping is redone. All right, let me go show you those arborvitaes in the back. So remember, this is what a new one looks like, and this does have a little winter color on it. You can see it kind of bronzes out. So let me go show you a more mature one in the back and where I put the arborvitaes that used to be here. All right, so here is a tater tot arborvitae at full growth, and this one is also in a container. But because this is a more smaller, more compact arborvitae, he is good to go in this pot. I fertilize him, make sure he's happy as needed, and he just lives here. And isn't that fall color beautiful? That bronzy tips on those, so those look really good. And this one is back here in the little shade border area, and as you can see, there's lots of leaves still to clean up. And here we have the two arborvitaes that are tall conical ones that used to be in the front pots, and we are back here behind our shed in this flower bed that we just started developing this past year. And so these two will grow up in height, and then along with the magnolia tree should provide us a beautiful green privacy screen between these houses in the back, and then give us a beautiful landscape backdrop to come in with pretty things. And as you can see in this flower bed, we've already started. I've got some amugo pine there, dwarf pine, and there's some things planted all through here, but this is it. So this flower bed needs a little work. I was rough in here pulling weeds and doing stuff the other day, and just haven't come back to clean up. All right, guys, that's going to wrap up our projects here today at the Horticulture Geek Gardens. I thank you so much for joining me, and hopefully you have enjoyed watching these projects today. If you still have things undone at your home or garden, get out there and do them. Tackle as much as you can, even though it is cold out, and yes, it is freezing right now. There's still things that you can be doing. There's still cold tolerant plants, hopefully, depending on where you're at in the world. If you are already in a polar vortex and snow on the ground and no hope of doing anything, I'm so sorry. But here in central Arkansas, we still have time and things to do. As a matter of fact, my onion shipment for 2025 should be here in a few weeks. Maybe even this next week. So at some point I've got to prepare the onion bed, get it all cleaned out. I'll have a video coming out of getting all the onions planted for our 2025 onion harvest. So we've got some exciting things coming up between just regular every year projects like that, and then our massive new landscape redo. So guys, seriously, stay with me. Tune back in later for more videos. Hit that subscribe button and notification bell. If you have any questions from today's video or any questions in general, I would love to try to answer those for you. Just drop them down below and I'll do my very best. Again, I hope you have enjoyed hanging out with me today here in the Horticulture Geek Gardens. And I hope you all are having a fantastic new year. 2025 is off to a great start here, and I hope it is for you. So until next time, guys, from my garden to yours, I wish you all the best and happy gardening.